on how do we bring physical and digital together. Imagine a world where you take a concept like Star Alliance, where anywhere in the world you travel, as long as you are a part of Star Alliance, you can go into one of their lounges with LinkedIn, with the Uber concept, and you kind of mash all that together into this like beautiful neural network where you start to converge the very siloed aspects of physical and digital. You know, we have our friends over at the Canon out on the west side. We have the Ion in Midtown. We have headquarters on the east end. We have stations still here in downtown / Capital Factory. However, it's evolving. And we're only going to grow more as a community. I mean, I learned recently there's 20 emerging tech startups in Galveston right now. One of them is valued at $90 million. Yes, in Galveston. Yeah, and so, yeah, exactly, right? Focus on life sciences, partnering with UTMB, solving hard challenges. Like, we have no idea that's happening. So the digital aspect will start to converge our community and bring us together where the physical is unable to do so. But the physical is also very important. So the question that I have, the opportunity that I think we see is how might we start to converge the physical and digital density together in a way that starts to create this beautiful ecosystem that again does what is not easy to do. And no one to my knowledge has done it successfully yet. LinkedIn does a great job of networking, maybe, right? But I'm talking about a living organism that we can start to bring the idea of physical and digital together that has an intimate relationship with me as a user and you as a user and understands us as human beings and starts to bring together the goals and the objectives that we have, because we don't have to sit anymore in just one physical space doing one job for the rest of our lives. We have the opportunity to align our practice and our passion to discover our own life's work because of the density that we're creating here in our community. And so I'm going to go back to John now, but masschallenge is doing exactly that. And you are creating density. I mean, for those of you who do not know, masschallenge is one of the most world-renowned, most respected incubators in the entire globe. Like, it's amazing. They chose to come to Houston. They could have gone anywhere, but they wanted to be here with us to help make this a reality. And of course, they had John and Ren and others on the team to make that what it is today. But how are y'all starting to bring that sense of density together outside of this great example that we have tonight?
Yeah, so first, your check's in the mail. Thanks for the kind support. It's very nice of you. Yeah, so masschallenge, like I mentioned before, has been around for 10 years, right? And we solely exist because of the expert community. So we spend a lot of time thinking about and focusing on the 4 months of the accelerator that we run, right? So this year we're expecting somewhere between 50 to 70 startups to join us. We plan to ramp that up next year to 100 startups per cohort. Again, terrifying, but it's a huge group. So there's a couple things that happen there, right? So when I was at the partnership, we did a lot of work with the Startup Genome Project that benchmarked innovation ecosystems across the world. And they interviewed over 25,000 startups per year to get their sense of mentality on how they grow and how they develop. And the single factor that contributed to a startup's success, and their success was defined by post-Series B raises and ability to generate revenue, was whether or not they had a global perspective on their team from the very early stages. So whether or not they had somebody that was helping them think about how to sell into international markets, into other markets outside of their home market, it was super impactful. So at masschallenge, less than 50% of our cohort is local. Typically about 20 to 30% is international, and the rest is from all over the country. So we like to bring these varying perspectives together to help them learn from each other. The core of it, though, really is driven by this community. So when you think about most accelerators, they extract value from the community by finding local startups, investing in those startups, and introducing them to a venture network, which is awesome if you're a startup that's in that stage. It's super effective. We look at things a bit differently. We look at a geography based on its knowledge pool and the people that can contribute to an innovation ecosystem, and then we orient them to the startups that we bring in to help those startups develop, but then also to help those people get a sense for like what's out there. So while we spend a lot of time focusing on the accelerator, we actually work year-round with our experts to do programming throughout the city to help them expose that knowledge, that infrastructure, that learning to startups everywhere, and to start to infuse the thought process of innovation accounting, of lean principles, to people across the city. So that's a couple ways we do it. Look, we're not an expert at it though, right? Like we've got a model that works and creates really great startups. But you mentioned a lot of other folks, right? The Ion, TMCX, the Canon. There's other accelerators, even Plug and Play and Generator, that are doing amazing things in Houston. There's probably another dozen that are coming. The number one thing we can all do is just show up and participate, right? So this is interesting too, right? Because when I think about creating density, Accenture, you're not a sponsor officially, you're just a friend, so I can say this. You know, it was originally Arthur Anderson that had the whole Enron thing, right? And they sort of like rebranded, which was cool. I hope this doesn't make it back to Brian or Peggy. So Accenture had this thing where they were a consulting firm, right? And they decided to come to Houston. They hired a guy like Brian who was awesome about 3 years ago, something like that. And you guys have completely redesigned your brand and your culture to position yourselves as sort of these innovation leaders. So I'm curious from sort of an internal perspective how you guys do that, because I think that that's a microcosm of what we do as a community to bring together diverse perspectives.
Wow, yeah. So I do come from the startup world and very fortunately built one that did well. And it was interesting because that was totally organic serendipity, by the way. Like, we didn't do anything profound. We were just a bunch of creative kids with really ridiculous ideas. And it seemed to work. But when I joined Accenture, you know, one of the first things that we had to do is we were growing. Because our innovation hub here in Houston, you know, if you think about it more for those of you that come from the design community, we're much more like a studio or like an agency, right? Like, we build digital products and services. Like, that's our jam. And we love to look at hard challenges, and our why statement is explore the unexpected, dream what could be, create what will be, and inspire humanity to action. And we see our innovation hub as an actual tool, the physical space. I call it the rocket ship, and the human beings inside of it are the rocket fuel. And we believe that physical space is so much more than just a physical office space. It is actually, I was actually on a conference call today, we were brainstorming
rallies or what he says when it comes out.
Someone said, oh, we can come to your office, and I like got very passionate for a moment, and I was like, it is not an office, it is a rocket ship. I mean, not literally, but metaphorically, it is a rocket ship. And when you have this environment, this physical environment, it is a manifestation of the human beings that occupy it. And so we had to look at a few things very strategically as we started to build our physical space. And one thing we need to do is be able to create density, right? Because we need density even within our 30+ thousand square feet that we sit within. Because one, there's a strong correlation to density and innovation, and that's how we get to what we call the bigger, bolder, better ideas. And so we started looking at this more as an opportunity to focus on the use cases of our team, first and foremost, as we were designing, and we said, okay, well, what do they enjoy? Well, we know they enjoy foosball, they enjoy ping pong, they love espresso. So we've literally built a space that I call divergence. I don't think anybody else does, but I call it divergence because there's a scientific model called moment of insight, which if y'all have never heard of this, Google moment of insight. It's awesome. If you've ever had that aha moment, like in the shower or running, and you stepped away from that blade of grass and you saw the meadow, and that's where that aha really cool idea came from, the eureka effect, it's called divergence. So our physical space is actually a manifestation of that model in the real world that actually uses that to help our team have collisions. And it works because I sit there every day because I hate desks, so I sit on the couch because if you gave me a desk, I would feel really constrained and I would probably run out the door and never come back. And that would probably not be good. So, because I need a job. And and I need to fulfill my life's work. But anyway, tangent done. We also did stand-sit desks. This was another really important thing for our team because when you're standing, you're more likely to collaborate. When you're seated with your headphones in, that's my closed door policy, leave me alone. But the ability to think through the details of design, right? It's all about the tiny little details that create those collisions. And now every day I see the theoretical practically applied, where our team is able to collide. They're playing ping pong and they're talking about a project, that's what's on their mind, and a bigger, better, bolder idea comes out of that, and it starts to actually get away from incremental change and that to actual innovation.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, so we're about done, so you guys can go back to drinking here in just a second. But I hope you picked up on a couple of themes here that are super important, right? So whether you're a part of a community, an organization, whatever, the idea that you have to show up, you have to be engaged, you have to be active, whether it's with us or anybody else, I really don't care. Obviously, I want you to be with us, but I want you to be in the community more. That's the number one priority. And when you have diverse perspectives and opinions, and you create these environments, which is what we're trying to do here at Mass Challenge, to create the ping pong tables and the foosball, and we want to create an experience where we're bringing in these startups and we're exposing them to the most awesome people in the world, which is you all, or your networks, or your friends. More importantly than that, though, these are startups that need help. These are startups that are literally going to change the world. We are at a point in the development of Texas where Texas will be the place where innovation happens over the next 20 to 30 years. I'm not going to go too deep into that. I can talk about all the economic models afterwards, but that's going to happen. Sorry, they're telling me to eat the microphone. That's going to happen pretty aggressively over the next 20, 30 years, and the only way that happens is if smart people like you all show up and you participate and you join this journey with us, right? So I invite you to participate. I invite you to be an expert. I invite you to be a startup, or I just invite you to our next happy hour, whatever you're open to, right? We'll continue to buy the drinks until we get you drunk enough to sign on the line. That's fine. On your way out, whenever we're done, we're here for a long time, drop your card at the table with the folks who checked in at, and we're happy to send you a link to sign you up to be an expert.
Yeah, now I'm freaking inspired, so. John said something at the very beginning, and I love to think of this idea that from the front porch of Houston, Texas, we dig our boots in the ground, we roll our sleeves up, and as he said, we get shit done. Like, we do solve the hard challenges, so show up, get involved in the community. If you don't know how, come see me. I will gladly make sure that becomes your reality, but just get involved. Like, and I remember when I first came here, I grew up here, but the company that I helped build was headquartered in Dallas, and I had no freaking clue where to go. Like, we opened a studio here, no one knew who we were in Houston, even though we had gotten quite a bit of attention nationally, and we just wanted to help, but I had no idea where to go, so I know what that feels like. So if you want to get involved, just please come say hi, and I will gladly make sure that you get connected. And thank you all so much for just hanging out with us. This is really fun.
Yeah, this was awesome, y'all. Don't forget your cards. Fill those out. There's apparently amazing prizes. Again, I don't know what amazing means. Ren has committed to amazing prizes, though, so you can throw things at her if it's something like sunglasses. No, that's all we got, guys. Seriously, though, hang out. If you have any questions, come talk to us. We've got this space for a while. Have another drink, have some food, meet some cool people. Thanks for being here. We really appreciate it.
Wait. No, but we have pictures of one.
I told you. I can tell you on that. I just show up. I just show up.
We have an art gallery.
Oh, nice. Hey.
Oh, hey. Yeah.
For sure.
I don't think there's any room for